Hello, and welcome back to Miss Bell's classroom. Today in class, we're going to be talking about brain parts and the structures, and kind of the functions of the different parts. So some of the different parts that we'll be looking at today, I'm going to go through those. So we'll be looking at the brainstem, and within the brainstem, we'll be looking at the medulla, and we'll be looking at the pons, as well as the reticular formation. I'm kind of talking about the purpose of all of these things. So that's one kind of the brain structure we'll be looking at. And we're also going to be looking at the thalamus, as well as the cerebellum, and the limbic system. So with the limbic system, we've got kind of three parts that we're going to discuss today. And then as well as the hippocampus. So we'll be talking about all of these as well. And I hope that you learn a lot today, or get a refresher. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is the brainstem. So with the brainstem, this is kind of the part of the brain. So this is kind of like the oldest part of the brain. So if you think about a picture here. So when you have the brain, we've got the brainstem, and the brainstem is where the spinal cord kind of swells and enters the skull. It's responsible for the automatic survival functions. So you can see here, that is the brainstem, and it connects to the spinal cord. And as we kind of discussed a little bit earlier, there are kind of three main parts of the brainstem. Okay, so within the brainstem, we've got the medulla, the pons, and the reticular formation. So if we took this little piece and moved it here and isolated it on its own, that's what we would have. So with those things, the medulla right here is the base of the brainstem, and that controls heartbeat and breathing. And then above the medulla we have the pons, and pons helps with movement and facial expression. And then the reticular formation is about the pons, and what that does, it's a nerve network in the brainstem that plays an important role, kind of controlling, excitement, things like that. So we've got the medulla, pons, and reticular formation are all a part of the brainstem. And if we go even further, when we take this brainstem up here, we have the thalamus, And so with that, it's kind of the brain's sensory switchboard. Okay, so it's located on top of the brainstem, and it sends direct messages to the sensory areas in the cortex and transmits replies to the cerebellum and the medulla. So it's going to receive information for all these senses except for smell. Okay, so that's the parts of the brainstem. We've got the medulla, pons, and then the reticular formation, and we also have the thalamus. These up here. So next, what we're going to talk about is the cerebellum. Okay. So with the cerebellum, it's called kind of the little brain. Okay. So it's attached to the rear of the brainstem, and it's going to play a part in memory, emotion, timing, kind of, sensory discrimination, being able to tell the difference between different types of senses. So here we have the brainstem, which we just talked about, and then below there we've got the spinal cord, and then we have the cerebellum beneath that. Okay, so this is the brain, the brainstem here, spinal cord, which is going to attach to the brainstem, and then below that we've got the cerebellum. So that is kind of all. So within that, after that, so the next thing that we're going to talk about today is the limbic system, and that includes 3 parts, okay? So within the limbic system, we have the amygdala, and then we have the hypothalamus, and then the hippocampus. Okay, so each one of these parts has a job and a role. So if you look at this photograph here, in the brain, we've got the hypothalamus right here. We have the amygdala, I can't say the word, and then the hippocampus right here. So you can see the hippocampus kind of swirls around there. And then we also have the gland right here. So we're going to go ahead and talk about each system today. So the first one we're going to talk about is the amygdala. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I probably am. So this consists of 2 almond-shaped kind of neural clusters, and this is linked. So there's 2 of them here. You can't really see, but these are linked to emotions like fear and anger. So if I look here, you can put a better picture of it alone. It's right there. They're almond clusters, and they're linked to fear and joy. And then next we have the hypothalamus, and what this does is it directs several maintenance activities like drinking, body temperature, eating, and kind of control control of your emotions. So it's going to help control the endocrine system by giving directions to that gland down here. So we've got the hypothalamus right here. It's going to work very close with that gland right there. And then last we have is the last part is the hippocampus. And hippocampus processes memories. Okay. So you can see this picture here. Here it is. Kind of goes around. A little swirl. Kind of looks like an ear from this picture. So that's going to help you with your memories. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, that was kind of the first part of the lesson. This down here. So, a little bit more about the limbic system. It contains the reward and pleasure centers. So, just kind of thinking about all of those parts, the emotions, memories, things like that. It's going to help control that. So, the next kind of thing that we're going to talk about with the brain is the cerebral cortex. Okay, and we're going to take a look at this and what it is. So with the cerebral cortex, each brain hemisphere is divided into 4 lobes. Okay, so they're separated by prominent, areas. So with that, we've got the frontal lobe, we have the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the parietal lobe. Sorry if I'm saying this wrong. So the frontal lobe, that is with judgment, and reasoning. Okay, so we've got the frontal lobe, judgment and reasoning. Then we have the next one, which is right here, the parietal lobe. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrect. And what that does is it helps with senses. You can see it's back here, so frontal. And then, so we have the frontal, parietal, and occipital lobe. So with the occipital lobe, what we're going to see with that lobe is it's going to help with your vision. I kind of remember that just by this word kind of reminds me of, occipital vision, kind of like going to the eye doctor. For some reason that word reminds me of that. And then we have the temporal lobe, which is going to help with your hearing. So if you look at this little picture here, your brain was split into different parts. We have the frontal lobe, which is A, and that's going to help with judgment. And then we have the parietal lobe, which is B, and that's going to help with the senses. And we have C, the occipital lobe, which is going to help with vision. And then down here by the ear, which makes sense, that's the temporal lobe, which is going to help with hearing. Okay, so it's kind of the 4 main things. We could separate those into. Tell me about that. Just to okay. So within the cerebral cortex, there are different functions. Okay. So the motor cortex is the area of kind of the rear of the frontal lobe, okay? And that's going to control voluntary movements. So we've got the frontal lobe, it's helping with also the motor cortex. So I'll just write that down. So we've got the cerebral cortex. Within that we have the frontal lobe, which is A here. And within the frontal lobe, we have the motor cortex, which is controlling those voluntary movements. And we also have the sensory cortex. Okay. And the sensory cortex is the area at the front of the parietal lobes, right there. And this is going to receive information from skin surface and sense organs. So within that, we should actually put this here. I don't confuse you. So within the parietal lobe, we've got the sensory cortex, which is kind of if you touch something hot, it's going to let you know. Okay. And then the visual cortex is located in the occipital lobe here. So that's the visual cortex. And so after that, we have the auditory cortex, which is located at the temporal lobe. Okay, so it can help with hearing, things like that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the brain's plasticity. Okay, and so when you think about the brain's plasticity, what do you think of? Good, good. So it's kind of, sculpted by our genes, obviously, and also by our experiences. So when you think of plasticity, it refers to the brain's ability to modify itself after, an injury or illness. So usually the brain areas related to the damaged or missing part develop the ability to kind of function as a part of a new system. So if something gets damaged, you can, kind of pass it on to a different area, if that makes sense. So for example, if a person who is blind, the visual cortex may register and process touch and or hearing, so kind of heightening that sense. So our brain kind of demonstrates, the ability to change when we are children more. Another interesting thing with the brain is language. So, just being able to understand. So if you have your two hemispheres of your brain, and you split them in half, typically the left hemisphere is kind of related to language and how you process, how you speak, things like that. So if that part is damaged, you could have, difficulty maybe speaking, things like that. And then just kind of something else called lateralization. So this occurs in non-split brains. So people with intact brains also show left-right hemisphere differences in mental abilities. So there's a number of brain scan studies that show normal individuals engage their right brain when completing a perceptual task, and their left brain when carrying out a linguistic task. So when we think about the brain, thinking of the left hemisphere kind of as more of the language, the right is more of kind of, the creative side. So that is kind of all that I have for today. I hope that you enjoyed this sweet lesson, short and sweet lesson on the brain parts, and I hope to see you again in class.